Nick,
Hey, bud.
hey man, just making some coffee.
No worries. How are you? Thanks for doing this.
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me. I'm gonna go grab my other piece real quick.
Yeah.
Dude, how are you, man? Is there anything I can do for you before we get on here?
Um, Doing pretty good. Um, Nothing really comes to mind. I see some gyms down south, Georgia, Florida, are transitioning to opening. So I think
Yeah,
that's all.
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's early still, I feel. But yeah, that'll be something we could, have a future discussion about once the time comes.
Awesome.
No, I feel pretty good. I think, yeah, it's been a little over a month, so uh, yeah, it's been crazy. This whole experience has been pretty awesome. But,
Yeah, I was really looking forward to getting some type of a break, and that did not happen.
no,
And then it's like we're all gonna get a break, and then the economy just laughed and laughed and laughed.
a break mentally, financially, physically,
Any,
all of it, any of the
any,
above.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like hey guys, we're going to be shutting down the facility, and now we're going to work twice as hard with half the amount of time and pump out twice as much stuff.
yeah, yeah. I agree, but it's not all bad. There's some positives in there for sure.
Yeah, oh, tons of positives. I've gotten so much perspective on what I even want to go back to, and what I'm not going to go back to.
Yeah,
This thing for so long, like man, everything's so great here. Everything's so great. It's so great, and then step back from it, and you're like, man, that was not that great. I don't want to do that again. So
yeah. I think there's definitely been clarity and like you start thinking about exactly what you're saying, like what do I want to keep, what can I let go of, um, and I think you know in life there's moments that you have to go through that to kind of shift your focus and realize what's important and what's not important, and there's times where you get comfortable and you think that is how things are supposed to be, and then something like this happens and it forces you to there's two approaches you can take. You can lead or run and hide because it's uncomfortable and there's a lot of unknowns and you don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work. um, but I think having clarity and leadership is what helps a lot. Did I lose you?
now I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, my screen just went weird for some reason. All right, well, we are live in the group.
Hello, everybody. I was wondering that. I was like, I wonder if we're totally live right now, and I've just assumed that we're in a waiting room, green room.
We're going live, so it'll just be me and you, and then I'll just peek kind of over to Facebook, see if people have any questions or anything. But first off, thank you for doing this. For those of you who don't know Jeff is my two brain business mentor, and he's one of the people in my life that have helped me shift and kind of prepare for unknown and unknowable. So I'm eternally grateful for you. And starting off, let's learn a little bit more about Jeff. How did you find CrossFit, and what started your journey?
Oh man. Well, let me let me check the recording there and see if I can even think back to that far. Before I do, I mean, thank you for having me and for saying that stuff. And I'm just a product of a lot of people like you, man. So I'm surrounded by really good people, and that's all I know. CrossFit. So I started back in, I don't know what year it was when I was 16, but I was 16, and I was at a athletic club, and that was one of my first jobs working at a gym. And I worked like 3 jobs at the time when I was in high school, and I worked super early in the morning. That was where I first got introduced into like fitness. And then from there, I went to a powerhouse gym, which some of y'all might be familiar with, which is a like very meat market bodybuilder style gym. You know, there's lots of like questionable massages going on and like oil tanning beds and that type of place. Lots of neon lights. It's one of those places. Neon lights and mirrors.
That's the
And
most attractive part of it.
yeah, oh dude, it was like the glory day of the leotards. Started there. By the time I got there, thank God the leotards were over. Except for like, you know, some of the older bodybuilders that were like 60s and 70s, they still loved them. Then I was there when I went to college, and in college I worked with athletes. I was minoring in exercise science along with a whole bunch of other stuff that I was studying. And I really loved athletics. I'd been involved in a car accident as a teenager that kind of took away, you know, my athletic career and scholarship spots and college hopefulness of going on an athletic scholarship. So the gym was a really good way for me to have an outlet, especially as, you know, like a young kid, and there wasn't a lot of parental supervision going on. My teenage years, there was none. There's absolutely none. So it was a good place for me to get some frustrations out, to socialize, to make friends, and to you know, have an outlet that I no longer had with athletics. And so I was in a bodybuilding gym. I was still kind of training like an athlete. I trained people who wanted to be athletic, and which is totally different than bodybuilding, even though I did work out a lot of bodybuilder guys. And then this guy shows up on around Memorial Day weekend, and the gym's open, and it's like me and one other dude there. And this guy shows up, and he's got a CrossFit shirt on. And of course, at the time, the most I knew about CrossFit was like, it's these guys who get on the internet, look up a workout, and then think they're super cool by not doing what the rest of us are doing. That was the whole consensus of what it was. I didn't really know what it was. But I was bored. I clocked out for my lunch break. I was like, I'm going to go lift. And I was just super burned out on all the workouts we were doing. And see this guy over in the corner, and he's doing pull-ups. And I had a little bit of gymnastics background. He's doing pull-ups, push-ups, and squats with no barbell, just body weight squats. And I was like, this guy looks like he 2/3 of the way knows what he's doing, because he's wasting those squats without a bar. What an idiot. And he had a CrossFit shirt on, walked over and talked to him for a minute. I warmed up next to him. And of course, this is the only spot to really do pull-ups anyway. And 20,000 square foot gym, nowhere to do pull-ups except that spot. Talked to him for a bit, and he's like, I'm going to do this. And I heard what he said. There's no whiteboard, but it was like, yeah, I'm going to run, and I'm going to do a whole bunch of these. There's like 100 pull-ups in this workout. And I was like, oh my God, can I even do 100 pull-ups? I got to do this. So I jumped in, and it was my first workout ever, and it was Murph. And I was a 185-pound, unhealthily lean bodybuilder guy. Well, I wasn't that unhealthy, but I was into bodybuilding. So that means 2 things: no legs, and no engine. So it took me over 2 hours. I stopped in the middle of Murph and like laid down to recover, got up and finished it, because I'm not going to not finish. And Murph was my first workout. Wow. And so from there I was like, well, that was death. So I got to do that again. And then came back a little bit more and started incorporating it into training. The science stuck out to me a lot. I loved how little salesmanship was going on with the program, and how much was just common sense, and how much of it like really applied and could hold up in a orthodox strength conditioning background, which I was studying. And I thought like, oh my God, I got to give this to all my swimmers. And I was the strength coach for a swim team at the college here. And I was like, I got to do this. And we did. And people loved it and it grew. And then the guys at the gym loved it and it grew. And then that caused problems because it was a bodybuilder gym. And then all these CrossFit people are coming in now and stealing all the equipment and the aerobics room. And that was how I found it.
Wow. And what year was that?
2009.
Oh,
Well,
so
yeah, 2009.
very early. Yeah, I mean, back then it was really just the journal, right? That was really it.
It was the journal, and Chris Spieler
Yeah.
looked like a monster back then, and then no one really knew what he looked like in person because no one was famous then. And but yeah, it was like Spieler was famous, Kalipo was famous. I think Froning wasn't even heard of yet.
Yeah.
It was Miko Salo.
Yeah.
And everyone, it was those days.
Wow. Very early. That's awesome. So your first experience was Murph, and a lot of stories, people finding CrossFit. There's, I mean, now more so you hear more on-ramp stories and foundations and whatnot, but there's definitely, I mean, they're becoming a pastime. The stories of the glory days of my first workout was Fran, or my first workout was Murph, or I worked out in somebody's garage. I mean, garage days don't really exist anymore. I mean, now definitely that's like we're all back to the garage days, which is kind of cool. Yeah, there was a part of me that when this first started happening, I started with Kenny in 2014, I believe, and it was in his garage. And so a part of this was, when it was early on, I would go down there and we would shoot some videos and work out. So there's a piece of me that was like getting back to my roots, which I thought was kind of cool. But it's it's not the same as working out with your crew in the gym. So after finding Murph and transitioning from a bodybuilding background into CrossFit and this new way of thinking, where did that journey lead you, and how did it evolve over the years?
Well, first, before we say anything else, the transition from bodybuilding workouts to CrossFit is just showing up and getting your ass kicked every day. And that was all it was. The whole journey. And it just never stopped.
Yeah.
But, from there to here, so I had been working at that gym. I started at cleaning equipment at like 17 and started selling memberships and then moved to personal training and actually became a trainer. And then had my own practice of personal training outside of there, and nutritionist, which was, helping people with food. I wasn't a dietitian. That's different. And ended up actually managing that gym. And that was in 2011. They decided that we were going to move the gym, which was like closed down and reopen as a different gym somewhere else with different ownership involved. And like it was just kind of an interesting situation that it wasn't like I didn't want to be a part of it, but I felt like if there's ever been a better signal for me to go, take on my entrepreneurial, interests and curiosities, it's probably now. And so I was the manager at the time, and I like took all my hours off the schedule that I could, and I would lock myself in my bedroom, the office in my house, and then I wrote a business plan for a CrossFit gym, and still have it floating around somewhere in here. And it's it's like spiral bound from FedEx Kinko's and has like pixelated pictures of the stadium first year at the games. Like, now we're at like the Staples Center. This is how big this is getting. Give me money to start a gym. And every bank turned me down. But yeah, I came with a business plan and was just kind of biding my time there. And when the time came to move, I still had no funding. I got turned down by 13 banks.
Wow.
And I mean, most of them wouldn't even give me an appointment, and I would try to go show up. I was like that guy who's, I think if you apply for a job, you need to go in 2 or 3 days in person. Like, hey, I submitted a resume. I want to see if anybody had a chance to review it. Like, I was that guy. So I did the same thing with banks, and they found it really annoying. But I was 22 years old. I had no credit. I had nothing. And I mean, I had credit card debt. That's the kind of credit I had.
Yep.
And so banks were a no-go. And the time came where we closed the gym down. I was like, man, I'm going to be without a job here. So I took my personal training clients to my garage, 2-car garage, and I had a morning class and an evening class, and that was it. And it was free for friends, family, and neighbors, and you could bring other people. All you had to do was like help out and donate with equipment and clean up. And people were donating $100 almost every month, my little box, and I could live off my personal training clients who didn't care where we were. And I realized quickly, like, this is really becoming kind of its own business. And so I told the manager of the gym when the time came to go to the new one, or the owner, I'm sorry, asked if I'd like to interview for a manager position. And I thought for some reason back then that it would feel good to say no, but it didn't. But a lot of them else, like, I think it's going to be a no for me. But I've learned a whole lot. I've really loved all my time there, and I got nothing but positives leaving here. But I think at this point, I'm going to go start my own thing. But it's not going to be anything like what you do, by the way. And he's like, "Oh, I know. I know you like that CrossFit stuff." Um, so I started out of my garage, and then had enough people coming in and that it was a lot of barbells getting slammed down in the morning and the evening. Had the cops called on us a few times, and
Yeah.
my neighborhood filled with a lot of older people don't like that. And a couple members recommended one weekend that I go find a building and make this a real thing. So I went out that weekend, and everywhere is super expensive. And I found the building that we actually fully occupy now. And I hounded this landlord, this guy. He's just a sweet old man that has a building. He's not a landlord. And he used to build airplane instruments out of it. And he had kept horses in it before us. And I showed up, and he happened to be there. And I was putting up his for rent sign. And I was like, "How much you want for that?" And he told me, I was like, "All right, look, I'll be honest with you. I ain't got dirt for money. I got nothing right now. Also, I have no guarantee any of this will work. Also, I'm 22 years old and I'm a kid, but I can give you a third of the rent month one, 2/3 in month two, and then a full rent by month three, and we'll clean it up and make it all look really nice."
Wow.
And it took a couple more days of me just calling him, and because of course, he was like, "Oh, absolutely not." So called him a few more times, bugged him, and I think he just kind of saw a little bit of myself in him, or little bit of himself in me, just when he was younger, and let me do it. And that was 8 years ago, and we had, like, it's kind of hilarious. Like, it wasn't much bigger than my garage. I don't know why we moved. It was mostly offices and a tiny workout space, and then and we took over half the building, then we took over all the building, and then took over the buildings on the property and leased those out, and then rented them out. And then now I lease my building only, and um, started doing CrossFit there, but transitioned all the clients up there. And we started with about 20 that came from my garage. And I think over the summer we had gone up to about 70 people. And it was a lot of word of mouth. Groupon was a really big thing back then. We tried it, and then I immediately realized I did not want to do Groupon.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the start, and that was April of 2012.
3 years after doing Murph and having that experience.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you're still in the same building.
Yes.
So that was West Little Rock, like, from the beginning.
Yeah. It started in my garage. Our official signage was some door magnets with that looked like the games logo that I put on my Jeep. Like, that was our official signing. So I was like, it's kind of like wherever I drive to, guys. Like, there's no official home. But yeah, it started in the garage, and then we moved to that building, and that building's still where we are.
So in transitioning from garage to building to now back to garage days and having your gym in their own homes and garages, do you feel that your experience before getting to a brick and mortar of, catering to people in a smaller environment, but to me in that moment, it's not even about CrossFit, like what you've created it goes beyond where you're doing it. So you can take them from your garage to a building to now you have something that they're a part of that's greater than where it is. Um, do you feel that going through those has made your transition to where we're at now like a little bit easier?
Yeah. Valhalla is not a place, it is a people.
Right. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah, it's definitely um, from personal training. You know, the thing we learn from that is that it doesn't matter what the workouts are. Almost, you're gonna, if you've got a professional, they're gonna do good workouts. They're gonna take care of you. You're going to enjoy that stuff. But like the value is in it that you have an appointment and that you're gonna show up and that you don't want to let someone down. And the time you have there is enjoyable. So if you can take that type of value and translate somewhere else, like with CrossFit, a lot of us sign up for that. I want to lay on the floor, make a sweat angel with all my friends. And that's what makes us stay accountable. We have appointment to do that, and we don't want to let those people down. And so I do find that the biggest pieces of value are the things that you can't touch, that are not tangible. You know, it's like you can only see truly with the heart, not with the eyes.
Yeah.
And like you can't see what's valuable with your eyeballs, but like you can feel what's valuable.
Yeah.
It's anywhere.
I think that's for me what's helped give me a sense of calm now. At first, there's a lot of chaos and uncertainty and fear, and you know, having something like Two Brain has been honestly like life saving, and in that I can give myself a little bit of space to say, hey, Nick, like you guys are doing great. It's okay to not think about the gym for a minute. Because I have a hard time. I've always had a hard time with good enough and accepting that what I am doing, given any circumstances, whether that's playing drums, surfing, whatever I'm enjoying doing, is good enough. Um, so I think that's been a struggle in this whole experience of accepting that, hey, like CrossFit Off the Grid goes beyond the brick and mortar, and the spirit is very much alive. It's okay for me to step back for a moment and not look at my emails and work on the next thing. It's still important to plan and work on the business itself, so it's there once this is all said and done. But um, like I said, without Two Brain giving me giving me the feedback and the do this, not this, and this is what's working for you, so do this. It's so easy to go on the internet and see all these different shit. There's just shit everywhere.
Yeah.
And the whole, which I wanted to avoid, paralysis by analysis, and like, oh, they're doing this, even in Two Brain, which we kind of talked about, like, oh, this gym's doing this and it's working, maybe I should do that. But that's not the spirit of Off the Grid. That's not what we need as CrossFit Off the Grid. So making the decisions and knowing that in my gut and in my heart, this is the right decision. I think that's what's helped us, stay afloat and keep rocking and rolling, man. So again, thank you for your guidance, and I know you got a lot going on with trying to keep your ship afloat, but I think we're all kind of in the same boat of, we're all Two Brain family, and we know what's working and it's being tested, and all the little things that we stress about, we don't have to, because we have other professionals that can help guide.
Yeah. The most important thing is, and when what you get with Two Brain and with us, is what we give is based in data, and there's so much data out there that really a big piece of my job is to filter down to like what's important based off of what is the client's business like, and is that really a good fit for their type of business. And there's so many tactics, there's so many strategies, but those are a dime a dozen. But like what really guides you in applying whatever tactic and strategy you do, because almost anything can work if you make it work. It doesn't mean it's going to be a good idea, but what's worth its weight in platinum and gold all day long is being in touch with your vision and knowing what type of business that you have, and like, will these things really work, and are these things really important to me now? And just like you said, like you nailed it on the head. There's so much stuff out there that it's okay to not check your email. And I will support that and prop it up and like stand on a pedestal and tell everybody like it's more than okay to not check your email. Because what happens a lot of time is we have this fear drive that causes us to like click on a thing, or to even be scrolling through Facebook anyway half the time, is we're bored or we're afraid of something or we're trying to find some escapism. But we see this link and we click it, and then that takes us to another one, and that takes us to another one, and this fear builds up even more. We're like, I got to do something about this. And pretty soon you just end up on the weird side of the internet with like jumping llamas with AK-47s. But you're doing this stuff, and it comes from a place of, I have this fear, and you won't be able to see that because you can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. You're very heightened at that state. And that can lead anyone in this sense of fear usually feels a sense of urgency along with it. And that's where we can make decisions that are not going to be, they may make us feel better in the moment that we took any type of action period, but we will have to suffer the consequences later that we didn't think about. And so if you can proactively get off of your email and get off of Facebook and give yourself some office hours, and I have personal training clients who are still training straight through this, and two of them this week, their only job is to turn their emails off after 5, like no email because of their work. And it's like, it's going to rob them. But if you will proactively put all that aside and go, okay, what do I want to do? And you can come at a place of knowing what your business feels like, knowing what your community feels like, or your family, or your workplace where you work, or your school system if you're a teacher, and knowing the culture and what you're working with. And you remove that sense of urgency, and it allows you to really think through the process of like, I want to do this thing, and what would that look like here at my nose? And then like, what would that look like a little bit down the road? And then like, where is this going to end more than likely? And of course, the end point shouldn't stop you from doing it, but they should be. These are things we often don't think about if we're like reacting to push notifications and to story feeds. And so like feeds and notifications and Slack, and we use Slack and TwoBrain, and me and Brian Strump are probably the worst about it because we do not like, I don't know about him, but I don't like Slack. I don't like a constant barrage of messages, but because I can't focus.
Yeah.
And so I turn it off, and I have all my push notifications off of there. And everyone at TwoBrain knows it, because you'll message me and then a few days later I'll read it.
Yeah, my only notifications are email, the off the grid email. Everything like Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff's off. So I set that filter a couple years ago, but yeah, I can see where, you get in that trap of like, oh, there's a thing, got to go to it. So, I think for me, it's just, I get something in my head of like, okay, like ads, for instance. This morning I was working on our ads for online stuff, and it's like I get down this rabbit hole of like, okay, I'm starting here, and then I have to systematically do it. It has to be in this time frame. But it's hard for me to shift out of that and like take a step back. Okay, go do something else. You don't have to do it right this moment. It'll be there later. Come back and work on it a little more. So for me, it's been learning delegating a little bit more instead of putting everything back on myself. I know we're back in the founder phase, and there's a lot. It's a lot of unknowns, and we're learning a new business model essentially. But just trying to remember back to before we were here and how I felt as if I was in a good place of handing things off to coaches, and try to implement that a little bit more instead of putting everything on myself. And honestly, my coaches have been amazing, and I'm very grateful for each and every one of them, because they've been, helping keep the ship going with the vision. I think exactly like that nails it down. It's an unwritten thing. It's not, it's there though. Like we've sat down and done the work with my vision, my mission, and my goals, and they're there, and we're still working towards it whether or not we're in the building. So I think having that out there in the universe does help everyone move forward in the direction of all of us on the same page, instead of everyone guessing like, oh, I guess he wants me to do this, I don't know, he hasn't talked to me, like so that definitely helps with driving off the grid forward. As far as fitness and motivation and being in this house arrest, we'll call it, what's your fitness looking like these days under COVID-19, and what are you doing to help stay motivated, we'll call it, and moving and just getting something done outside of work?
So with my fitness, I'll tell you what it looks like right now. And it looks like I wake up and I do, I usually wake up at 6. Well, let me preface this with, I am working on the things that I have been hiding from for probably the past decade when it comes to health. And I've working out and throwing weights around does not mean you're healthy. If you are doing it regularly and you're moving well and you're getting coached and having people who see things that you don't, and there's a devil's advocate even just by the nature of having other people around, and you're socially becoming healthier through CrossFit, you're physically becoming healthier through CrossFit. Of course there's that, but from the competitive side and from someone who's been very competitive and at a certain level with his fitness before, I can tell you it almost becomes unhealthy because everything becomes about you. So, and then like the guy next to you in the lane that you got to beat because you got to make this money. So in the time that I was doing that, the things I wasn't doing or I was not doing was making sure I have a good morning routine and doing meditation, actually doing yoga, and not just downloading ROMWAD and looking at it and doing it once and then just paying $14.99 for nothing. Actually doing that. Looking at how I sleep and how long I sleep and the quality of sleep that I have. Those things actually are taking up probably about half of where my effort is going to fitness right now, because I've, over the past few weeks, I've found my formula for sleep, which is like I had to get rid of some of my pillows. It's so silly that you'd think that, but I need 4 pillows. I need 2 long ones and 2 like real soft ones. And I have my setup to like just barricade me like a Mongolian baby that like they wrap up and they get real strong trying to fight out of like their wrap, right? Making sure that my temperature is set down to 68 or 69, that lights are off after about 7:30, and that the dogs don't sleep in the bed with me anymore. I hate it. They hate it, but I got to sleep. I feel so much better. And I wake up in the morning I just got a sunlight lamp so that it will like wake me up gradually like a sunrise, a little bit before the sunrise, because I actually do want to go see the real thing. But for right now, I wake up at 6 a.m. every day. Doesn't matter what day it is. And I get like nature sounds on Alexa, and it turns my lamp on, and I don't have an alarm jerk me awake anymore. I go light candles and wait for the sun to start coming up, and I don't do any unnatural light until I've done coffee. Number 1, I make my own coffee. That needs to come first. And then I'll do about 15 minutes of yoga, and then I'll do about 10 minutes of meditation, depending on what area I'm meditating on that day. And I just follow the Headspace app and the different types in there. I keep it simple. And then from there, I take the dogs out. We watch the sunrise. Sometimes I have coffee with my members like I did today. We do a Zoom thing and get everybody on, have coffee, and then I mute myself and watch everyone try to talk over each other. Pretty much what's to come. That's a really important thing. So looking at sleep, looking at like my actual taking care and taking a proactive approach to it, taking care of my mind, my flexibility, and my stress and my breathing. And as far as like moving things, I am doing a lot more work with structural balance, single leg stuff like lunges instead of squats a whole lot, and single arm thrusters with dumbbells instead of the barbell a whole bunch. And I'll row and bike and I skateboard a whole lot right now. And I definitely have a more laid back approach to the fitness aspect of my health. And I still like to lift heavy things once in a while though. So not looking to set any PRs during house arrest right now. I'm just looking to maintain. And something I've preached for a little bit is like 10 out of 10 does not mean 10 out of 10 2 or 3 years ago. That's not real. Like you need to go what a 10 or 10 is now, and also not go off of what someone else's 10 would be. Like your 10 could be someone else's 6, and you just need to worry about like what your 10 is.
Yeah.
So for me, it's being able to go run and bike and skateboard, not being able to go, run my 800-meter record from high school or bike for 30 miles straight without stopping. It's just to be able to do the things. So much more laid back, and it takes a lot of pressure off, and I get to have a lot more fun doing it, which is important because I'm doing a lot of it by myself, and that sucks.
Yeah, it does. It does not.
I make sure I go to bed at night, and lights are off and candles on, and no unnatural lights after about 8:00 unless I'm watching Stranger Things season 3. I only got one episode left, so
Nice.
That's one of the things that probably is my vice right now. Well, 2 vices. I have Chick-fil-A probably
Oh,
2 times a week, and that hasn't happened in a long time. And then having TV, because I just now got back into TV after years without anything.
yeah.
Man,
What,
TV is awesome.
you've been watching Stranger Things?
I've been watching everything. I really like having something in the background. So like America in Color. I love the Cosmos documentaries. I'm actually more like a background noise kind of person, but I definitely enjoy Stranger Things and Game of Thrones, and watching all of the Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings movies in the marathon. But not really, because I'm doing stuff.
Have you started Tiger King?
Yes, I started and finished Tiger King in like a couple days.
Have you seen my shirt?
Carol did. I like all the memes about like she says she's gonna put some type of like juice or something on your shoes that'll make a tiger kill you.
Yeah, the sardine oil.
Yeah, sardine oil. It's like, yeah, someone who hasn't murdered someone with tetanus wouldn't know that.
That has been the greatest thing that's come out of this whole pandemic for sure.
I'll tell you what, it makes us look great in Arkansas, so I'm all for it.
What you said you started, skateboarding is part of your daily routine. Are there any other hobbies or things that have kind of gone by the wayside, but you picked them back up recently?
Man, playing guitar. I hadn't really picked up my guitar in probably over a year, and I picked it up and realized how rusty I was and couldn't even make a C chord. And playing guitar and singing without just singing along to the radio and having fun, but like actually, formulating notes and like playing around with like actually performing. And I'm not performing or anything, but so I used to play in bands, but there's always a really good stress relief and very cathartic feeling by doing that. So that's come back. I just recently started writing more again, because after we started working with people in China, and this started becoming hey, we need to prepare America for this in the company, my writing stopped. It needed to be back burner. And so I just now got back to where I can start doing that again.
Yeah,
so
you're
writing and being
stuff every day.
Do what?
You were pushing stuff out every day right before this.
Oh yeah, people were complaining. They're like, "Stop it, calm down."
It was good stuff. That was good content.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing the yard sale post and email.
Oh yeah, sure.
That was, that spoke on the 10 out of 10, and I think kind of like when we opened, there's moments in life that force you to take a path and shift your focus and maybe transition to the next chapter of your life. I think that was definitely one of the big ones for you. Um, so thank you for sharing that. That's a crazy experience. So I was looking for. I've been doing like little Facebook events in our group for all our calls. I was scrolling through the interwebs. I had to ask you about this, and I was looking for a picture, and I came across one of you rocking a Affliction T-shirt and a Bud Light in front of you. What do you have any comment on the Affliction T-shirt?
I love to hear that's about the Affliction shirt. We all have gone through some dark times. The Bud Light probably had something to do with me wearing that shirt. I'm not. I can't picture the. I can't picture the scene or the shirt. Is there? Is it possible for you to screen share it so I can see it?
Yeah, I'll find it and we'll screen share it.
I can think back to a time where my personality may have done that, but no, I totally fell for the whole. You're. If it's what I'm thinking, I think I was in college, and I think I fell for the whole. You're a broke kid in high school, and you just wear the same clothes every other day, and like I had Jean Co jeans, those are the most expensive things in the world, and then you get student loans, and you're like, well, I'm gonna buy what all these rich kids get, and then I think that might have been back when that was.
All right, so here we go. All right, so this, can you confirm or
Oh no!
can you confirm or deny this?
That's my brother.
Oh, really? Okay, good. All right.
No, that's actually me.
Oh, man.
I am 17 right there, and I am in a bar. I am in a piano bar nightclub here in Little Rock called Ernie Biggs, which I believe is shut down for good reason. Um, God, yeah, all the dudes at Powerhouse Gym pretty much ran that place, and they're like, "Yeah, come on out." And I was like, "Well, I'm not gonna say no." And we just all walked in the front door and like, "Hey, he's with me." And I went there for like 2 or 3 years, and yeah, I never once got carded, none of that stuff. And then yeah, and then they didn't. I told them later on, like, I'm like 17, right? And like two of them were like, "We can't go to jail. We cannot go back to jail.
Oh my goodness.
Don't do that again." I was like, "You asked me."
That's the story behind the picture. Thank you for sharing. I was dumbfounded there. I said, no, he's not wearing an Affliction, but
Oh, I was. It's, can't be afraid of all of our shadow side, guys. You got to accept it. Mine just happened to come in Affliction font.
We all had our phases, Um, well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I really appreciate you doing this. And we'll connect on business related stuff down the road. But
Yeah.
What's the strangest thing you've done during quarantine?
Strangest thing I've done during quarantine. Man, gotta think about that. That's a good question. Strangest thing.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
My stepdaughter painted my toenail, and I mean, I like looking down at them. It's they're nice.
Man, strangest thing. I don't think I've done a lot of anything strange other than just really not had near as much communication with people as I like. And I definitely I am 1.5% an extrovert. And I do like that's kind of how I recharge, and I haven't gotten to see a lot of people in person. And that's been like a lot of what's going on. Other than that, there's not a whole lot that's like outside my routine between that and the gym and working out. Um, I will give you one, not to completely like throw your question into the ditch, but I'll give you the most fulfilling thing that I've done so far. Which might be weird for some people, you never know. But my brother has his wife and 3 children, and they're 9, 2, and not quite 1, and a little over 1 actually. and they were just driving around, getting out of the house because they'd been in the house forever. And I'm sure my brother was just ready to get away from everything. And it's like, hey, are you at your home? You want us to just swing by and say, hey, and like, is it safe and everything? Because my girlfriend is currently one of the people who's treating COVID patients. So we've been apart for about a month. So having lots of great Skype dates and Zoom dates, and but I was like, yeah, and then I haven't been around my girlfriend lately or anything. So like, kids are safe, all that stuff. I've just been here and come by, and then we have 9-year-old Rylan, and I taught her how to ride my skateboard, and I don't know what it is about her. Like, you just give her anything and she picks it up, and she needs like 1 or 2 tries.
Wow.
And she's got it. And so she was just riding around on my longboard the other day. And she wants to learn tricks next. And I was like, yep, I'm going to need a permission slip from mom on that one, though, because I was like, you're cool here. I don't think that mom's going to like me that much if you come home with busted ankles. So, but that's been the highlight of last week, and probably one of the more fulfilling things that I've done in a while. I got to teach her that. And then we get back to the car, and in the parking lot, and my brother's family's right there. She's like, you're cool. And then it's like right in front of her dad. And I was like, yeah, keep it up, Dad. I'll teach her how to ride a bike next. Good luck getting that one back.
I am cool.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. It's like right in the childhood, man. But yeah, that's I think that's it. I haven't done anything strange. I haven't done anything weird other than just show up as myself.
Yeah. That's
I got a haircut right before all this went down, so everyone was trying to ask me where they could get a haircut for a good 2 weeks. So that was a little strange, a little weird.
Yeah, I forced myself. I had it going for a bit, and Joe's losing it, so I said, you know what? Go ahead, girl, get the clippers. And she did a pretty good job. I'm due for another one soon.
Got to get the vacuum attachment to, forget what those were called, but it was like the vacuum hose, and it just has clippers on it. Your mom had you on the back deck every summer. It's going to save all of that money from going to get your hair cut and then realize how painful it was to try to cut your hair.
Awful. Last question. What's your favorite donut?
Favorite donut? Man. Okay, it's not a donut. It's a kolache.
Okay.
Kolache from Shipley's Donuts. And do you guys have Shipley's up there?
I think Dallas we saw. Is that a thing over there? Yeah.
They're a chain now. They're still very family owned, and they're not a huge chain. But anything from Shipley's is great. I'm gonna go with favorite donut though. I'm gonna go with, man, I'm just an American boy, man. Just good old glazed donut. A good glazed donut's plenty enough for me.
What's a kolache?
A kolache they've changed it now to where like they have a different piece of bread, but they get a sausage and they get some cheese and then they wrap it up in dough and then they bake it. And they used to do it with the actual, like the donut dough, and you get ham and cheese, and it's kind of like a Hot Pocket before Hot Pockets. Yeah, theirs is just, it's good. So you got to go to the right one because it's family owned, and there's like the family's Korean, and their stuff is amazing. And then there are some Shipleys that are owned by white families, and they are not very good. So I don't think they're getting the special recipe, maybe, but you got to be careful where you go. You got to go to like a real Shipley's, not the wrong kind, because then it's just like a hot dog with some cheese.
Yeah, there's a couple in the Fort Worth area when we were out there. We never made it over. We found a pie shop. Dallas does not mess around when it comes to pie. Pie was like above and beyond, like good stuff. East Coast, we're more like, your pastries and fried dough stuff and pizza shops on every corner. But down south, Dallas food was amazing. Very good.
Oh yeah. You can get to Little Rock, man. Get you some barbecue.
That's once we can start traveling again, the clan will make a trip down.
Did you ever, off topic, did you ever listen to Circa Survive?
Circa?
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're playing in Dallas and Toronto pretty soon. Tickets are $120 round trip to go to Dallas right now.
I saw Anthony Green when he was just doing his solo stuff. They played in there's a town in South Jersey called Ryland, and they put up a venue. This was like 2009, I think, and everybody like the first show they had was Saves the Day and Anthony Green, and it was weird because I'm like this is like it was like 10 minutes from where I live, so I'm like this is like my town, but they had like all these and then like a mirror and like all these like crazy like metal shows and stuff. It was cool, but I had Circa. I so in this whole shutdown, I bought a drum set, so I got started getting back into drums, something for my past that I missed and love doing. But I also like during my garage workouts, if it's just myself, I've been putting on some old albums, and I was actually painted this room a couple weeks ago, and it was all Circus Survive and Thursday and
Yeah.
all throwback. So it was nice to like tap back like Coheed. Like I've listened to that album I can't tell you how many times, but the last song on Second Stage was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like the song, it's really good. It's a whole different perspective now than when I was 16 or 17 listening to it.
Yeah. Back then is like music, and now it like ties you back to like you
Yeah.
as a. It's nostalgic, man. It's great. Yeah, I almost got in a fight with Anthony Green one time.
You told me about that one whenever.
Stepped on my shoe. Yeah. Realized how large of a person he is in person.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Tiny, tiny little voice, giant human.
Big boy.
Just like Coheed.
Yeah, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Freaking talking, like, wait, what? Really? Cool. Well, thank you again. I look forward to our next conversation. I appreciate you very much, and I wish you the best of luck in all this. I'm sure you'll be fine, and we'll. I know you're kicking ass, and we'll keep it up.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. And same goes to you and to all your people. Y'all stay safe and practice social distance and practice loving one another. Till next time.
Cool. All right, brother. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
See you, bud.
See ya.